What do you say, everybody? As we talk Bama, we're going to do it from here on the beach today. Well, at least I am. There's Clint back at home, and I'm at the Floor Bama Mullet Toss. We're going to talk some Alabama football, though, including potential tight end that could be joining Alabama, maybe not. The first round happened. I told you to take the over. You did, and you won, thanks to the Eagles in a late trade. What's going to happen today? And more right here on the channel. But like and subscribe, and we appreciate you guys. First off, brought to you by Cover Crimson. Secondly, forget that our friends at Pearl River got you covered, and we're about to get this show started. We'll do it right now. Let's go. There he is, Clint Lamb, Mick Gillispie, hanging out with you on the beach. Well, at least I'm sorry, Clint. Not trying to make you jealous here, but
you're definitely making me jealous.
It's just what we do, though, man. I mean, Steve just rolled up. We got Channel 10 hanging out. We got the. Should I throw the mullets? Oh, there's the mullet. There's actually the mullet toss happening. See that?
Have you thrown a mullet yet?
I haven't thrown yet, but I will. Oh my gosh, look at this! Thank you, Jen's here. I'm gonna throw soon. I'm a bronze medalist from the mullet toss in 21. I'm going to throw with Jake Coker. I didn't lose to Jake Coker.
You probably lost.
Didn't throw against him. All right, Clint. Well, tell us about Brody Dalton, and then we'll talk some NFL draft.
Yeah, good commitment for Alabama. We had talked about how it was possible that they could still get Brody Dalton despite the fact that they got Jack Samarco, I guess. I almost said DeMarco, like DeMarco Hellum, Samarco. I apologize. But two young guys who fit that kind of blocking inline tight end need that Alabama had. Once again, Alabama didn't need a starter there necessarily with Danny Lewis expected to be back for the fall. But what they did need was more tight ends that if they needed to turn to them, they could provide serviceable snaps to Alabama. They got that. Dalton is an older guy, like Samarco is younger. He was only a freshman last year, going to be a sophomore, so he's got 3 years of eligibility. Plus, you got the older guy who's only got 1 year in Dalton. So, just overall, a good pickup, Mick. I think that this really helps solidify the tight end position as far as numbers and depth. And you won't, more than likely, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but I feel pretty good about Alabama not having to play Will Sanders at tight end this fall as a result of these two moves. So good move, good decision by the coaching staff to target these two guys. It fills exactly what Alabama was looking for at the position.
Yeah, right. So he commits to Alabama and excited to have both tight ends in. Were you surprised at all that they went 2 tight ends instead of 1?
I think if they just would have landed one of these two guys, I think they probably would have been okay. But I think adding both really, once again, it solidifies it. Like I have no worries about injuries playing a significant role at that position. And granted, if you could have gotten all these guys back by the fall, you probably wouldn't have had any problems anyways. But adding players like this, and once again, there's a couple of ways to look at it. We've talked about the importance of, like, they were targeting a depth tight end, but they wanted a guy who, if they had to turn to him, they could get quality snaps out of him. I think Alabama, both in the short term and the long term, with these two guys, they fill that. And then also, you've got a couple of scholarships to play with. And so, I like the fact that they ended up adding 2 and not just 1. I like the fact that when you talk about Danny Lewis, you talk about Jay Lindsey, now you talk about Brody Dalton and Jack Samarco, you're looking at 4 potential inline options, Y tight ends. You've got Josh Cuevas, a high-quality pass catching option, H option for you, a guy like Caleb Edwards, who I think could play the H or the Y. Kind of thought he'd come in and be a Y early on. Through these 2 moves, the fact that you've got so many potential inline players, you can play him as an H as well. And then you got Marshall Pritchett, the other true freshman. So kind of a 4-3 split, in my opinion. And, I think that this allows Alabama to bring Caleb Edwards, who was not an early enrollee, and Marshall Pritchett, who was an early enrollee, but he wasn't healthy coming in, ended up missing a significant portion of the spring. So this allows them to bring them along slowly. There's no rush to get them on the field. If they prove to be ready, great. But I think Alabama's got some good options there. And Samarco, as I mentioned yesterday, being 6'5", 260 pounds right now, huge frame, big body guy, certainly going to be a player who stands out at tight end. Wouldn't be shocked at all if eventually he ends up growing himself into being an offensive tackle with the premier athleticism, and maybe he can help you there too. So definitely a couple of really good signings.
All right, I love to hear that, and excited for Alabama to add to the tight end room. I'm expecting more, though. I think they're going to go on both lines. I really do before this is all said and done. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think, based off of my numbers, I think they're sitting at 82 scholarship players. Granted, that's exactly what I was doing when we first started, was just making sure I was correct on that. That means you got a few scholarships to play with. I could see another punter. I could see a defensive lineman, maybe an offensive lineman, maybe an off-ball linebacker, but I doubt it. But I think at these other spots, you're pretty good. Maybe a fourth quarterback, but I also doubt that. I think they feel pretty good about that room, and the fact that you haven't lost any of them up to this point. The transfer portal, today's the last day. So if you're a Bama fan tomorrow, you'll be able to feel good about where this roster will be in the fall, because there won't be any more departures. And probably at that point, you'll start feeling even better about it.
All right, well, good news from Tuscaloosa. Let's talk about the draft. You asked me yesterday, over under on Bama players in the first round. It was the spread at Pearl River and everywhere else was 1.5, right? And so you don't have to drive to Pearl River to get that, but you can. It's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa to the Timeout Sports Lounge at Golden Moon Casino. 2 hours and change from Birmingham, but you get that Vegas-style experience over at Pearl River, and we appreciate them for being a part of this. So now what? Like, you got the Dallas Cowboys took Booker. They just got a steal, I think, a guy that will solidify their offensive line for a long time. And then the Eagles, at the very end of the draft, when, there's nothing going on, boom, they trade up and they get Jihaad Campbell. And, they talked about all these injuries that he's dealing with, but the fact that he's such a good football player, and that and the Eagles love those Alabama guys because they like winning Super Bowls.
I pointed this on Twitter in regards to Jihaad Campbell. Between Georgia players and Alabama players, there's a lot of they know how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to be done. They're culture guys. They know what it takes to play winning football. And I think the Eagles were pretty smart to stack their roster, because if you've got one or two of these guys, they can be leaders. They can try to show everybody else how it's supposed to be done. But when you get a significant percentage of your roster, which I pointed out yesterday or last night, now the Eagles have 7 Georgia players and 7 to 8 Alabama players. Obviously, Jalen Hurts would make the 8th. Some people view him as an Oklahoma guy. I think he counts as both. So I would say 8 Alabama players. It's like that's 15 players on your roster who all kind of understand how it's supposed to look. That's a significant portion. And they would just won the Super Bowl. Like, they've been trending in the right direction. But look at the Detroit Lions. I pointed out on Twitter today, just over a 4-year period from 2018 to 2021, they averaged a 4-12 record. Well, then they start targeting Alabama players in the first and second round. Jamison Williams, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then of course you had Terrion Arnold this past season. So I think between they've had 9 first and second round draft picks over the last 3 years. Almost half of those have been spent on Alabama players. And what do you know? You start stacking some of that stuff, and their win totals, they increased it by 6 the first year they drafted Jamison Williams. The next year it increased by another 3, and then this past season it was another 3, where now they're averaging like a 12-5 or 12-4 record since they started kind of approaching it this way. Like, there's very clear results. Now, granted, causation versus correlation, it's like that's not a guaranteed thing, but I will say it is something where if you're another NFL team, it's worth looking into. I'll tell you that. But what I love about the landing spots between Tyler Booker and Jihaad Campbell, first of all, they end up in the same division, so they're going to be going against each other twice a year. One of them plays off-ball linebacker, one of them plays guard. So they're going to be chopping it up a little bit a couple of times a year. But what the Dallas Cowboys have invested in as far as their franchise, I mean, whether it be Travis Frederick back in the day, Tyrone Smith, Zach Martin, first-round draft picks in the offensive line, big time. Like Taylor Guyton was their first-round pick last year out of Oklahoma. He's their left tackle. Tyler Smith out of Tulsa, first-round draft pick from a few years ago, starting left guard. Cooper Beebe, the third-round pick out of Kansas State. He's their starting center. Now you got Tyler Booker. That's 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick on your offensive line. Significant investment there. And then you look at the counterpoint, which is the Philadelphia Eagles, and their first-round investments have been spent in the front 7, on defense. So Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Now, of course, you've got Jihaad Campbell. So it's pretty cool to kind of see the opposites of those and just how they're kind of building things. And, it's going to be cool to watch them go against each other on Sundays starting this fall.
Well, congratulations to those two guys. And now we start the second day of the draft. Is Jalen Milroe going to be drafted in the second round? I think that's the question everybody wants to know right now.
I think he goes on day 2 for sure. And I do think that it is possible that he goes in the second round. When you start looking at teams that kind of have a little bit of a need, Cleveland, here's the thing that I've told people about Cleveland. We know the familiarity with Tommy Rees, and that could play into Jalen Milroe's favor, or it could be a situation where Tommy Rees was kind of, there was a struggle as far as that marriage, as far as Tommy Rees being comfortable with Jalen Milroe and knowing how to utilize him properly. If he feels that way about it, even though he started to figure it out, it is possible that he wouldn't want Jalen Milroe as a result of that. So I wouldn't say that's an automatic or a given. From what I've been hearing, the Las Vegas Raiders are probably going to be targeting Shedeur Sanders early in the second round, so they're probably taking off. But I guess they could still go after Jalen Milroe. The New Orleans Saints is one at number 40 that a lot of people have brought up. The thing about them is that I think they need a quarterback immediately. They need someone that can start sooner rather than later with where they're at with Derek Carr and, Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner. I mean, not a lot of great options, and Carr's injured. So if Jalen Milroe goes there, he'll probably get pressed into action too soon. So I don't know how I feel about that. But I've told people the ideal landing spot at this point is the Los Angeles Rams. They traded back in the first round yesterday, which gave them a second round pick, number 46 overall. They also have pick number 90. So if they don't take him at 46, it's still possible that they take him. But it's like, if he goes there, you got Matthew Stafford, who's aging. He's getting close to the end of his career. But he is, would be the perfect guy to kind of learn from. You get at least a year sitting, if not 2 years. You get Sean McVay, a fantastic offensive mind. You got some weapons in the passing game with Puka Nacua and, Devontae Adams. He might be a 1-year guy. I don't know. But they invest in receivers, or they know how to evaluate receivers. And then they also are willing to spend on the offensive line. So I think it would be a nice landing spot for him. Good weathered stadium, or area to live. That would probably be the ideal. Will he go in the second round? I don't know. It could be the third, but I'm pretty confident that he's going to go sometime today.
Yeah. So am I. But it's just a position. He's so good with all of the intangibles, when it comes to just like his athletic ability and his ability to run, and he's got a strong arm. There's some learning that definitely cost him. I feel like when it came to, if he would have finished strong, he would have been drafted yesterday. But the last few weeks of his career at Alabama were so bad that it really cost him draft status. And we'll find out what happens. But you're always looking for a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it's the most coveted position out there.
And the tools, you're not going to find better tools than Jalen Milroe. So if he hits, he's going to hit in a bigger way than anybody else in this draft, including Cam Ward. I say that Cam Ward's got a pretty high ceiling too, but I think what Milroe does as far as his legs, is he going to be a dynamic passer? I don't know, but if he can just get to where he can be consistent with his mechanics, consistently a threat with his arm through the air, take advantage of what the defense gives him, understands coverages, knows where to go with the football, just doing those things on a pretty consistent level. I mean, what that will do to complement what he does with his legs and what he provides with that, with his legs, I mean, that's going to make him very tough to defend. So I understand any NFL team. If he would have been drafted last night, I wouldn't have agreed with it. I think I've been pretty vocal. I felt like he was kind of a third round guy based off of my evaluation, knowing that the ceiling was super high, but the ceiling was high with Malik Willis at one point in time. Like, he was a very toolsy guy as well. He fell because of the risk. Like, you don't know that he's going to hit that ceiling. You don't trust the translation maybe as much as you would some of these other guys. But I feel like that, if he would have been taken in the first round, I wouldn't have been surprised. I wouldn't have felt like that was, I wouldn't have felt like that was a bad thing. But I actually like the fact that he fell, not from, I'm sure he wishes he would have gone on day one, but I just think him going in the second round or the third round is going to take pressure off of him. He won't be forced into a starting job too early. And, if he can be given time to develop, I think that will really benefit him. So I like the fact that he fell. And I probably think, right now it feels like it will be second round. But, it's also possible that kind of my thinking on him and where he aligns is with NFL teams. And so it is possible he goes in the third, too.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Of course, there's Clint in his home studio, and I'm at the Floribama, which is right here on the beach between the Florida and the Alabama state line. But I see a lot of Alabama gear here. People have actually come by and said, hey, man, I watch you guys. Well, thank you to all of you guys. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. The golf season's here, man. And Dancing Rabbit Golf Course is a place you need to check out if you like golfing. It's the Augusta. You can play millions of dollars into this golf course. It's the opposite of a goat track. I mean, it really is like, it feels like Augusta. Millions of dollars they put in, the azaleas, the oaks. You go in there and you get that vibe. You don't need a membership. It's an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa. I say that all the time. 2 and change from Birmingham and places like Jasper and it's a lot of fun. Philip M. Steakhouse, the Circle Bar. I'm going to take Clint up there soon, just because I need to introduce you, Clint, to what we do at Pearl River. But all you guys are invited too. Our friend Wes, he shows up. So thank them immensely for being part of what we do. Final thoughts on the draft. Anything that's really stuck out to you? Anything that was like mind blowing?
Let's see. Let me think about.
I mean, one day in, But.
Yeah, and I mean, there was, I was surprised that the Cleveland Browns were willing to trade out of that number 2 spot. The haul that they got, I mean, you really can't argue against them. Now, granted, Cleveland's gotten made similar trades in the past, and they did nothing with the picks they got. So if you don't, then it doesn't really matter. But what I will say is, like, from Jacksonville's standpoint, them moving up like they did, I mean, it was a lot to give up, but I understand it, and I still feel like there's a strong possibility that before it's all said and done, Jacksonville ends up winning this trade, because I do think Travis Hunter is a spectacular player. And the fact that he has such high upside at 2 different positions, let's hypothetically say that you put him at receiver, which is I think what they're going to do primarily with him. They're going to let him learn the defense and do a little bit. And I did like Nick Saban's point last night where he said, hey, I think it's a lot easier to play a guy full-time at cornerback and then use him situationally on offense rather than playing him as a full-time receiver and using him situationally on defense, because defense is a reactionary position. So, I like that is their plan, to play him at receiver, but it is probably going to, I don't know that he's going to be a full-time guy on the defensive side or even close to it. But, what I like about it is, let's hypothetically say that he ends up struggling at receiver. It's not transitioning. You still have another opportunity. You move him to the defensive side of the football, and it is possible that you still end up with that guy that you took at number 2 overall, and he becomes one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So you've got 2 strikes with this guy. And, so that makes it kind of worth it. And he could be a dynamic player, whether it be at receiver or at corner. So I thought that was pretty surprising, though. Tech McMillan going to Carolina, not surprised with the connections with the coaching staff. And, Jed Fish, who was Tech's coach at one point, gives Bryce Young another weapon. They went with Xavier Leggett last year out of South Carolina in the first round. You like that they're trying to give him weapons. I'll be curious to see what that ends up looking like. Let's see. Is there anybody else that really stood out? Probably not. I love the move of the Baltimore Ravens getting Malachi Starks. I know you're a Ravens fan.
I'm a Ravens fan too. You know this. When they got Malachi Starks, I was like, another great pick by the Ravens. The Ravens kill it in the draft. That's why they've been so competitive. And Malachi Starks is one of the best safeties in the game. And, you just add him to a great, a great situation over there with a team that's always competitive.
What I love about that pick the most is what it allows you to do with Kyle Hamilton. Like the Ravens defense is kind of at its best when they can go with that 3 safety system where, Kyle Hamilton can be a guy that they just move around playing in a lot of different places. He had to be, kind of a deep safety a lot last year with the way that things started playing out with some of their other guys at that position. Getting a guy like Malachi Starks allows them to be more flexible again with Kyle Hamilton when he was, one of the best rookies in the NFL just a couple of years ago. So I love that. And Starks, not a great tackler, not going to be super physical as like a downhill safety, but from a coverage standpoint, the man-to-man coverage, some of the other things that he can do, I think he's going to be an excellent fit in Baltimore. And I think ultimately that was good value in my opinion. And it was a good pick that really makes sense, but it's not necessarily that it makes sense where Malachi Starks is going to be. I do think he'll be a standout player, but I think you're going to get a much better version of Kyle Hamilton as a result of that pick, which is ultimately going to help the Baltimore Ravens. So I loved that selection. I thought that was a really good one. I thought it was interesting that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went with Emeka Egbuka. I hope I said that right. I always botched it.
I think you did, yeah.
Just because they re-signed Chris Godwin and Egbuka is like the same player, very similar traits. You're going to play him out of the slot a lot. You have Jalen McMillan, you have Mike Evans, and you would re-sign Godwin to a big contract, multi-year contract. So it's like, really, what did you need him for? But with Mike Evans getting up there in age, the fact that Chris Godwin gets injured quite a bit, and you don't know if there's going to be any sophomore regression from Jalen McMillan, it's like he's kind of insurance for all of that. So I thought the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would go defense, whether it be edge, whether it be off-ball linebacker, corner, safety, a lot of needs on defense. They ultimately go with a position that they feel they probably already were pretty set up for. But I think that bodes well. Like if you're building it like Kalen DeBoer is on the college level, all these receivers and stuff, like you can never have enough. And you even see teams doing this more often because they understand the value of that position. So if NFL teams agree with the way that Kalen DeBoer is building Alabama's program, I think that bodes well.
Awesome, man. Well, look, having a great time here at the Mullet Toss. So you guys that are watching, you can come and hang with us all weekend at the Floribama. And we appreciate everyone down here for hosting. Also, rowback.com, promo code RUDE20, and that'll get you 20% off your first order. I was wearing my black rowback last night, looking smooth, man. Rowback's good gear. Jake Coker's like, he sleeps in his, his hoodie pullover because it's so comfortable.
I've heard that a lot, actually.
Yeah, he's a napper. He told me he's a napper.
I say I can't nap, man. If I nap, it's a 3 or 4 hour. Like I'm getting an extra night's sleep, So, one thing I wanted to bring up, it was a topic, and we won't spend too much time on it. But man, 17 straight NFL drafts, Mick, with the first round pick for Alabama. 9 straight drafts, and this is the part that not a whole lot of people have been talking about. But I went and researched it last night. 9 straight drafts of multiple first-round draft picks. Georgia's sitting second in the country with only 4. Ohio State only has 1 year of having multiple, but like 17 and 9, that's incredible, man. One of the most, and that's the Nick Saban factor. Like he's still making an impact even after retirement. I thought it was crazy when Miami had like 14 in a row back in the day. This is the best run I've ever seen. I don't know that anybody will ever touch it.
No, he's the best ever. This is all about Nick Saban and what he brought to Alabama and college football. Kalen DeBoer's got to watch what's going on and just try to continue that. That's what they're working on right now. But it's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. When you talk about, like, there were years where we didn't have any picks in the draft. There were, remember? I mean, like
Saban's first year.
Yeah, right. Like you were like, man, like there might be a guy, like, hey, we got a 4th rounder. It's gotten to the point where the draft is always kind of circulating about what players Alabama has. You wonder what that's going to look like next year. But congratulations to Alabama for kind of setting the tone. And that's a selling point for DeBoer and his staff. Hey, we put first-round guys in the NFL. You go into that football facility and you see all those jerseys. There's a ton of them. So roll tide, man.
Yeah, and that's it's not just Alabama's program. Like Kalen DeBoer can say that too. He finally gets to a Power 5 program that can consistently churn out NFL talent. He already had put guys like Jake Haener in the NFL as a mid-round draft pick from Fresno State. I mean, how often are they? I mean, I guess they do a pretty good job of getting guys in the NFL, the Carr brothers, et cetera. But right. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't say it's super common. And then he finally gets that opportunity at Washington, a Power 5 program, and Rome Odunze, obviously several offensive linemen, first and second round picks, including Roger Rosengarten to the Baltimore Ravens last year, receivers, tight ends, despite the fact they're going late. I mean, just phenomenal job by Kalen DeBoer, also kind of establishing himself as one of these types of coaches. And when you marry that to a program like Alabama, is it Nick Saban? Is it going to continue to be at the rate that it's been? Probably not. But once again, I think as far as all your options to keep this train going, or at least well enough, I think Kalen DeBoer was one of the best choices you could have made. And I think that's kind of paying off, whether you're talking about the recruiting trail with the high school kids, the transfer portal. We still got to see it on the field. People didn't like the way it looked last year, discipline problems, whatever. But I mean, I think that once that gets solved, I think he's going to prove to be exactly what Alabama thought he was going to be.
Awesome, man. Well, Roll Tide, Clint, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to be on covercrimson.com, covering the draft, covering the transfer portal, anything going on at Alabama. We got you covered there. And it's right now $25 off the annual subscription. So take advantage of that. $75 for the year. That's less than a cup of coffee a day, as Clint would tell you. Like to hang out with us and to listen to Clint's commentary, that's cheap. So take advantage of it. Also, we are proud to be presented by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. The Azaleas, the Oaks, Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, 2 amazing courses that you don't have to have a membership for. Timeout Sports Lounge. If you'd have went to the Timeout Sports book, right, and you would have listened to us yesterday and said, take Bama to have over a draft pick and a half, you'd have won. And just think how much money you'd have today. No, I'm just kidding. Look, anyway, check that out, guys. Thanks for hanging. We're going to get back to Toss and Mullet here. Steve's ready to talk on the Floribama YouTube channel. So, Clint, I got to go.
But, hey, get out of here, big dog.
Roll Tide, everybody. Have a great weekend.